welcome back to my channel. I'm Sean, and this is Sean Turns Up the Volume. I meant to get a video out sooner before Columbus Day, but all those videos that I took were just me in the car talking, and I would rather get one of me back in my office space here in front of the microphone. Um, so I'm back. And what I wanted to say about Columbus Day, now that I've missed it, or as was labeled Indigenous Peoples Day. So I was going to say, for one, it does make me roll my eyes when I see the Indigenous Peoples Day come up instead of Columbus Day, because Columbus Day is just what I grew up with my childhood. So when I see something rewritten, when I see statues torn down, when I see new labels, and holidays put on things, that does make me roll my eyes as I see, which, like it or not, my culture being rewritten, which seems very 1984 Orwellian. And so, yeah, I don't love that, even if I don't particularly care about this holiday of Columbus Day. It did spur me to look at least surface level, at least as far as the AI would tell me about what Columbus accomplished and his sordid past. And it did tell me about his multiple voyages across the ocean and how he started a settlement. And I guess the first settlement got wiped out, so that must have been nasty for the people who lived there, probably on both sides. And then he came back and established another settlement, and I think this was in the Bahamas. So, I would say about that is that it's cool that explorers, that people would go on boats and sail across the ocean. I mean, I think his first voyage was like 3 boats, so these 3 wooden ships sailing ships going across like 4,000 miles of ocean and not knowing what they'll find on the other side is pretty awesome. It's pretty courageous. It's very ballsy. It's very dangerous. And so, like, those are things that I think are honorable and worthy of respect, and those things are worthy to like celebrate, that people of courage through history and through European Western history, civilization, were going out and exploring and leaving the places they were at in order to discover new places or establish themselves in other places, like to go out and settle new lands and get out from under the thumb of kings in order to live free somewhere else and establish a new place, especially when there's nothing there. There's no welfare state to take care of you. It's just trees, land, barren. You've gotta chop things down and till the soil and do all the things to establish something there. And hard, tough people did that. And so I think those are cool aspects of that. Again, as I don't know, as a white person, like Columbus Day, it's just kind of whatever to me. It's not one of the big holidays. I don't put a lot of stock in it. I consider it kind of another bank holiday sort of thing. Like, if only the banks and the federal government get off for it. Maybe do schools get off for that? I don't even know. Like, it's not so much a big deal to me. But seeing it changed over to Indigenous Peoples Day, that irks me, just because then we've got this changing of I mean, really, it's about being critical of our history and changing things. So, I mean, Indigenous, if you want to celebrate Indigenous people, I think it should have just had its own day then. Just make it a different day. If you don't, if we don't want to celebrate Columbus Day anymore, if we want to change it to like Explorers Day, and celebrate many explorers and the people who came from Europe and discovered different aspects of the Americas, then I don't know, that would be fine by me. Um, but like to celebrate indigenous people is a different thing altogether than to celebrate exploration. So like yes, there were people here, and indigenous people are people who were here before who came somewhere else. Of course, they're not um, they didn't sprout up out of the ground in America. That would get us into the all up into the realm of like grand evolutionary theory, and where the evolutionists want to place the origins of man, and I got issues with that too. But I'll leave that for a different uh, different series, perhaps. But the Native Americans who were here to in Americas and Central America and different things, well, they didn't sprout up out of the ground. So they're, while indigenous in comparison to Europeans, they also would have come from someplace else. Of course, they also fought with each other. They also killed one another. Tribes warred. That's why they had weapons. That's why they had spears and bows and arrows and sharp arrowheads and things, because they fought with each other, because they were human. And when they had access to horses and guns from the Europeans, they acquired them and used them to fight each other and um, to conquer and to keep them out of different areas, because they had territories as well. So, of course, they were very human, and, of course, in their own ways, very brutal as well. Like, this is just real history. I mean, I was reading about the Aztecs and their human sacrifice practices, um, and how it was like, what, thousands. You could see in the articles I was reading, how they would soften the practices by going, well, these were captured people through war, and that they, and the articles would say, well, um, they would even take some of them in and become, maybe this was about Native Americans, maybe this wasn't Aztecs, but take them into the tribe and they would become one of them, and making it like sound so noble. Well, yeah, they would murder captives or enslave captives, or in the case of the Aztecs, cut out their hearts and cut off their heads and keep the skulls and use those as more or less decoration. Um, but there's like this softness to it, like don't think of it so bad, and it's like that's what people do, left to their own devices. Um, that's what people do, left to their own devices. So I mean, I'm a Christian, and I also value science, because I think God made a very orderly world where we can um, do tests and experiments and figure things out, and that God is a God of order and not chaos, and that the farther we move away from the one true God and Creator, the more we move into chaos and into murderous bloodlust and things like human and child sacrifice and things like that. So, if you want to celebrate Indigenous People Day, like, do it on a different day, and then let's talk about all the goods and evils of the indigenous peoples' cultures too, because it wasn't some kumbaya thing. It wasn't some just perfect living with nature, some like Disney fairy tale. Somehow the left seems to embrace the noble savage kind of thing in that. They also see themselves, like Kamala's speech. It's like, I just watched a little bit of that. It's like they got to be the ones to come in and go, well, don't you know how bad the white settlers and things were? Well, don't you know about that? You need to know about like all of history. And as a child of the '90s, it's like, yeah, like we knew that. Like we knew that it wasn't that Europeans coming to America wasn't some perfect idyllic thing. We knew that there ended up being conflict with Native Americans. We knew there were brutal things done by the white people against the Native Americans. We knew that there were brutal things done by the Native Americans to the white people. We knew about what, like scalping. Like we knew there was conflict because, of course, you have two different cultures coming together that want very different things. Then there's going to be conflict. You have um, radical Marxist leaning people who think there's a trans genocide, and so they go and murder. Tyler Robinson goes and murders Charlie Kirk. So you've got difference of culture and perspectives going to going to blows and going to blood, and so like of course that would have happened in the past, and we learned that and we knew that this wasn't some secret thing. There was, I don't know, there I'm not aware of there being any cultural teaching of like, oh, things were just a beautiful, clean history of the past, and white people were just so amazing and pure, and the Native Americans were so evil or something like that. Like that's not what I learned growing up. That's not real history. I care about what real history is and looking at it from different lenses. And so the past is dirty from all sides, just as our individual lives are dirty from all sides, just as none of us is living the perfect life. And when you put us in groups, we're not living as perfect groups of people. And when you have very different groups of people coming together, um, well, it produces conflict, and that's why diversity often is not our strength. Diversity often means diverse and conflicted things coming together that don't get along, like oil and water, and so the just such pithy statements like that, of course, are well pithy and stupid and don't convey anything real. Diversity is um, not a like to make that a black and white values statement that oh just to make something diverse is good. Like the left doesn't even believe that because they certainly don't want the diversity that is conservative, black, Latino, Asian, or Native American or Aboriginal people or anything, right? Because you can be any skin color, any race, any ethnicity, any religion, and potentially be conservative, but they don't want that kind of diversity. So, they don't even believe in it. They're vacuous statements, very Orwellian. So, I was gonna say, um, I think it's cool to honor um, badass things, adventurous things, dangerous things, to celebrate people coming across the ocean, doing hard things, starting colonies, settlements where there was nothing before. That's cool stuff we should celebrate as our country. Um, and also, it's perfectly fine to acknowledge all the aspects of that. There's dirty conflict um, on all sides, and so we should look at all the facets of history. And that doesn't mean we can't still pick aspects of it to celebrate. Um, it is perfectly valuable and valid to criticize cultures. I mean, culture is just like lumps of people decided to start doing something. Somebody did something, and then other people went along with it, and then they're doing it as a group. That just because a culture does something doesn't mean it's good. Might not be bad. Um, and we judge the past, and it's easy to judge the past from where we sit, and yet the future will judge us too. But for that matter, that as a Christian, like it is God whose judgment matters. It's Him who I'll give an account to, who I think everyone will end up giving an account to. And there is a line in the Bible, in Scripture, that we'll all give an account for everything we've said, even what we said on YouTube or YouTube comment sections. And so ultimately, it's not about how we're going to be judged in this present time, or not about how we're going to be judged by the people coming along after us or those from the past. There is a bar of justice, of right and wrong, and um, I I'll, I'll say that's God's place. So that's what's to aim for. So I'll end this with like how are this is self-reflection. How are you living your life? How am I living my life? What are we doing in life now? Need my water. This is something I often work with clients on, and again, I'm not your therapist, and this is not my therapy channel. So take this for Sean's opinions. But our values can guide us and drive us, and it's good to be aware of what are the things that matter to us. What are we standing for? And how do we align with that? I'll often use the example. I'll put my hands up and go like, this is aspirational goals and this is how I'm actually living, and it's going to be somewhere inconsistent with that because we're all hypocrites in various ways and at various times. And so if I'm going, well, I want to maybe live self-sacrificially and radically like Jesus, and I'm also like super maybe selfish, angry, living an impure life. I don't know, just like list off a slew of sins, and I'd be living like way inconsistently from that. And so my aspirations might not align. So that means, are my aspirations really my aspirations? Is it what I really think and believe? Does that need to change? Or is it that I need to change what I'm doing and how I'm living and speaking and doing in my life to get more in align with that? And maybe I'll do a separate video, but I think that actually between left and right, conservatives and liberals and things, I think that we actually probably have a lot of shared values about things as far as the things fundamentally that we care about. Um, to values like justice, values like caring for poor people, values like wanting people to be lifted up, and different things like that. I think that there's actually a lot of common ground there, but where the rubber meets the road, how we do that, what that means for society, how we actually go about implementing that and producing that in our culture ends up being very different, where you get radically different ideas of how to do that. And of course, those weren't so radical just 15, 20, 30 years ago. They weren't so far off. But as I've said in many of my videos, the left has gone too far. It's gone so far over that we do find a big divide. And yet still, I think that if you really got down to the nitty gritty, that we do want a lot of the same things as principles, but then it comes out as different in practice. And then they hate us and call us Nazis and fascists because we don't agree with the way they do it. They don't agree with the way that we think something should be done. So all that to say, Columbus did some seriously bad things, it looks like, from what I'd read. And it's part of history. Like, it's good to know history. And we can also celebrate the badass things that people in our past did and acknowledge that they were imperfect or even bad people, morally bad people. And we'd hope that we wouldn't do the same things that they did, right? But we also didn't walk in their shoes. And so when we condemn, we also can or will be condemned by people in the future. So, and indigenous people existed. You want to celebrate them too? They can have, maybe that should be its own day. Sure, there's things to celebrate about Native American culture. There's things to celebrate about European culture. There are good and bad aspects of any culture, and that's how like cultures can learn from each other and be a melting pot here in America. So we can maybe take those best things and use them to be a striving for a better culture. And that's like a good kind of diversity, where we're taking really good ideas and appropriating them. We're going like, hey, that works and is good and is useful. Like, I want to do that too. That's appropriation. And this is how cultures advance and move. and it's a good thing to have that melting together of the best and good ideas. And I think that's why people have been coming here for centuries to do that. Um, at least until lately, when white American culture became evil and the devil. So those are my thoughts for now. Thank you for stopping by. And if you like this kind of stuff, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. I got some more video content to make.